The rainy night in the small town of Redwood Falls, Arizona. No one noticed the skinny boy curled up behind the trash bin behind a roadside diner. The neon light flickered on the highway diner sign, the rumble of trucks echoed in the distance, and the smell of old grease mixed with the rainwater into a scent all too familiar to the streets. The boy's name was Noah, 16 years old, his thin jacket soaked, his shoes torn, hugging an old backpack, everything he had left in the world. To the drivers passing by, Noah was just another homeless kid. But only a few hours later, he would make the entire town, and then all of America, burst into tears. While rummaging through a trash bag for something to eat, Noah suddenly heard shouting from the alley next to a bar across the street. Loud, mocking laughter, vulgar curses. The sound of breaking glass and metal slamming against the wall tore through the rain. He instinctively lowered his head, but curiosity, and something inside him that had grown too tired of watching the weak being abused, made Noah rise on his toes and look. In the middle of the alley was a middle-aged man in a black leather jacket, a falcon emblem on his back with the words Iron Guardians MQ, the toughest biker club in the Southwest. 3 drunk young men were cornering him against the wall, and one of them raised a steel pipe high, ready to strike him in the head. They didn't know that, in the shadows, there was a skinny, cold, hungry boy preparing to make the most reckless decision of his life. A decision that would make over 1,000 bikers start their engines and line up across the street in front of his home on a day America would never forget. If you believe that a small action can change a person's life, and even an entire community, watch this story until the end. And if you believe kindness still exists, please like, subscribe, and comment to tell us where you're watching from, so that these stories of kindness can spread even further. Noah was not born on the streets. He once had a small room painted in light blue in an old rented house on the outskirts of Phoenix. Once had a mother who played country music every weekend morning, and once had a father who worked all kinds of odd jobs to pay rent. But everything collapsed when Noah's mother died of cancer when he was just 14. A poor funeral, a few neighbors, a cheap coffin, and a boy standing so numb he couldn't even cry. After that, his father began drinking. At first, just a few cans of beer at night, then hard liquor, then nights without coming home. Rent fell behind, bills piled up, arguments broke out, and their belongings were gradually taken away to pay debts. One afternoon, Noah returned from school to find the lock had been changed and their possessions thrown onto the rain-soaked steps. The landlord simply shrugged. "Sorry, I gotta survive too." His father disappeared not long after, taking with him the last bit of security Noah clung to. From then on, he drifted through shelters, relief centers, under bridges and dark alleys. In each place, Noah learned something new: how to hide valuables in his clothes, how to curl up to stay warm, how to tell the kind-hearted from the exploiters just by their eyes. But there was one thing Noah never lost: the instinct to stand up for someone being beaten. He had watched his mother grow weaker, with no one but family to help her. That helplessness carved itself into his bones. On that rainy night in Redwood Falls, Noah thought it was just another night. Hungry, cold, trying to survive until morning to wait for the church to serve hot soup. He had no idea the shouting from that narrow alley would pull him into a story that, later, when he watched it on TV, even he couldn't believe he was the protagonist. Noah stood at the crossroads between survival instinct and a strange sense of morality that stubbornly lived inside him. He knew that if he turned away to find another place to sleep, no one would blame him. A homeless kid wasn't obligated to save anyone. But the sight of a man pinned to the wall, 3 drunks surrounding him, a steel pipe raised. It looked too much like the memories Noah had tried to bury. His heart pounded, his hands trembled, but his feet moved on their own. "Stop!" Noah shouted, his voice cracking between the rain and the drunken laughter. The three young men simultaneously turned around, stunned to see a drenched, skinny, dirt-smudged kid stepping out of the darkness. "Get lost, kid. This is adult business," one growled. Noah shook his head, standing between the leather-jacketed man and his attackers. "He didn't do anything. You can't beat him like that." The words sounded naive and stupid in the ears of drunk thugs. The one holding the steel pipe sneered and stepped closer. "You want to be a hero?" he asked, not waiting for an answer. The pipe swung, and Noah saw the flash of metal, then a sharp crack. Pain burst across his shoulder and chest, sending him crashing into a puddle of filthy water. Everything afterward came in fragments: cursing, stomping feet, slamming the ground, kicks raining onto his ribs, back, and legs. He curled into a ball, covered his head, tried to protect his stomach and chest, breath broken into gasps. The leather-jacketed man, Noah later learned his name was Jack Dalton, tried to pull them off, but the three men, young, strong, and furious at being interrupted by a kid, fought back harder. A punch hit Jack's face, and a kick knocked him down. The rain poured, bar lights flickered, and no one on the main street heard anything over the loud country music. Only when police sirens wailed, red and blue lights flashing across the alley, did the thugs scatter like rats. Jack, bruised and struggling, dragged himself to where Noah lay. He lifted the boy's head from the cold water and saw blood mixing with rain at the corner of his mouth. "Kid, can you hear me?" he gasped. "Why'd you do that?" Noah blinked, trying to hold on to consciousness. No one deserves to be beaten like that. No one. The broken sentence faded, and everything dissolved into white. Ambulance sirens, shouting, flashing lights, all swirling into darkness. Noah woke under the glaring white lights of St. Mary's Hospital in downtown Redwood Falls. The monitor beeped steadily, and the air smelled of antiseptic, cold and sterile. His left shoulder was tightly bandaged, and pain shot through his ribs whenever he breathed deeply. He needed a few seconds to remember who he was, where he was, and what had happened. Then the face of the man from last night appeared in his mind. The steel pipe, the rain, the pain. Beside the bed, in a plastic chair, was Jack Dalton, asleep, still wearing his Iron Guardian's MC jacket, his arms bruised. When Noah shifted, Jack woke with a start. "Hey, kid. Finally decided to wake up." He gave a tired smile. "Name's Jack. I should have been the one lying here." Noah looked at him, unable to believe someone had stayed this long just waiting for a homeless boy to wake up. In the days that followed, Jack barely left the room. A nurse told him no one had visited Noah. The file read, "Minor, homeless, no legal guardian." A social worker arrived and suggested placing Noah in a shelter. Before the boy could answer, Jack spoke. "If he agrees, I have a garage at the edge of town. There's a spare room. I'll sign whatever papers you need, and I'll get him back in school." The room fell still. Noah looked at Jack, feeling both grateful and scared. But the man's eyes were nothing like the eyes of people who had ever taken advantage of him. He nodded. Jack's garage sat on the outskirts, at the edge of the desert. Inside were rows of Harley and Indian motorcycles, the smell of oil, metal, and morning coffee. Jack cleaned out a small loft room for Noah, with a real bed, real blankets, and a window overlooking a power pole and a sky full of stars. That first night, Noah lay still, listening to the desert wind, feeling both comforted and afraid it would all vanish when morning came. A new rhythm formed. In the morning, Jack drove Noah to school on his black motorcycle, making the whole courtyard fall silent. In the afternoon, Noah walked back to the garage, helping Jack wipe tools, learning to change oil, and listening to engines to guess their problems. Jack didn't talk much, but whenever Noah did something right, he gave a simple nod and said, "Not bad, kid." It was enough to warm Noah's chest. Then a small article appeared in the Redwood Falls Chronicle. Homeless boy throws himself into to save biker from brutal attack. A photo of Noah standing beside Jack in front of the garage, both still bruised, stopped readers in their tracks. A local TV station called for an interview. Jack hated the idea of his story going public, but when Noah whispered, "If they know we exist, maybe they'll be kinder to the others," he fell silent, then nodded. The report aired on Saturday night. Images of the boy who once slept behind a trash bin described the moment he stepped in front of the steel pipe. The tattooed biker with a raspy voice saying the kid was braver than a lot of grown men. The small desert garage, all of it made viewers choke up. The video was shared across social media. People sent clothes, notebooks, and donations to Noah and to organizations supporting homeless teens in the town. Then, from somewhere far away, a phone call came through the roar of motorcycle engines. It was Cole "Bear" Jensen, regional president of Iron Guardians MC. "I saw the report," he told Jack. "We all did. You and the kid free this weekend? Bring him to the southern field. We'll take care of the rest." That Sunday, the sky was unusually clear after days of rain. Jack told Noah to wear his best jacket and bring his old backpack. "Where are we going?" Noah asked, heart fluttering with both excitement and fear. "A small trip," Jack replied, starting his black motorcycle and taking Noah out of town, past the "Welcome to Redwood Falls" sign. As the motorcycle crested the hill leading to the southern field, Noah heard a strange sound. At first, like a swarm of bees, then louder, thicker, hundreds of engines rumbling. Below the hill lay a sight that stole Noah's breath. A sea of motorcycles stretching across the field, arranged in concentric circles around an open space. Hundreds, then thousands of bikers, men, women, white, black, Latin, all wearing the same falcon emblem Iron Guardians MC on their backs. Sunlight hit the chrome, making the entire field shimmer like it was alive. Jack turned off the engine and placed a hand on Noah's shoulder. "Let's go, kid." They walked into the center. The engine slowly died. In seconds, the silence was so deep that Noah could hear his own heartbeat. From the front line came a large, gray-bearded man, Cole "Bear" Jensen. He looked Noah up and down, not with disdain, but with something close to respect. "This the kid?" he asked Jack. Jack nodded. "Noah." Cole turned to the sea of bikers behind him. "This boy," he said, his voice loud without needing a microphone, "did something most grown men wouldn't dare do. He threw himself between a steel pipe and one of our own. No cameras, no audience, no promise of money or fame. He did it because he believed it was right." Noah blushed, staring at his torn shoes. He wanted to say, "I just couldn't stand it anymore," but his throat tightened. Cole took off his leather jacket, with the Southwest President patch, and placed it on Noah's shoulders. It was far too big and heavy, but it felt strangely warm. "That day you stood alone," Cole said slowly. "From now on, you'll never stand alone again. I don't care what they call you, homeless, trash, whatever. To us, you're someone with a heart many men will never have." Instantly, every motorcycle roared to life. Engines thundered like a storm, the ground shaking beneath them. Residents of Redwood Falls gathered around the field's edge, phones raised, eyes glistening. They watched a boy who once slept behind a trash bin, now standing in the center of over 1,000 bikers, bowing their heads to him like a comrade. What they once only saw in Hollywood movies was now happening in their tiny town, because one kid chose not to walk away. The story of that field did not end in Redwood Falls. National news replayed the footage of roaring motorcycles, the Iron Guardian's jacket on Noah's shoulders, and Cole's words, "You'll never stand alone again." Donations flowed into programs supporting homeless teens. Schools organized clothing and food drives. People who once ignored dirty faces on the street began looking at them a little more closely. Years later, Noah grew tall, with a faint scar on his shoulder but steadier eyes. He attended school regularly, worked part-time at Jack's garage, and spent his free time volunteering at shelters. When invited to speak at his high school auditorium, Noah said something very simple. "You don't need a lot of money. You don't need to be perfect to change someone's life. Sometimes it's just not walking away when you see someone being hurt." In the back row, Jack stood with his arms crossed, leaning against the wall, a small smile hiding in his beard. He knew he had found something that a rough biker life had never given him. The feeling of being a father, even without sharing a drop of blood. And Redwood Falls found something it thought it had lost. The belief that kindness can be loud enough for the world to hear. If the story of Noah and the thousands of Iron Guardians bikers made your nose sting with emotion, take a few seconds to pause and ask yourself, in your city, your neighborhood, your school, is there a Noah quietly suffering where no one sees him? If you believe that small acts of kindness can still change an entire community, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to Kindness Stories 365 so you won't miss the next ones. And don't forget to comment below. What's the smallest act of kindness you've ever witnessed but never forgotten?